The grace of the Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let's try it again. The grace of the Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Stand up and just bring one another. Bless one another.
He's so
Oh Lord, take your word. Take the words that are spoken and the words that are in our minds and place your word on our hearts and into our lives. In the name of Christ. Amen. Why do you do the things you do? What motivates you? What causes you to get up? Grace. Why do you go to school? Why do you go to school? Hakyo whale. Because there's an external motivation. Korea, Appa, Amami, go. Okay, you're a little older. Why do you go to the Hakyo? You ask yourself that often. To achieve your dreams, so you have a goal that you're working your way toward. And school is okay. I said middle school. I can't say middle school. Middle school. Why?
High school.
What do I say to that? What do I say to that? Okay, why go to work? You know, you folks who work long hours, you know, you work so hard. Why? Tell me. You're trying to figure out yourself. Why? Why do I work? Because you need it to live. You need the money. Okay, well.
And because she does a really useful job and people need her to be doing that.
Okay, there's another motivation. There's money because I have to live. You know, I have to do something to eat, to put a house. Because I believe my job is useful. And helping people, I desire to kind of, your goal, you know, my desire is to make a difference in this world. And your jobs make a difference. I don't care if you're a street cleaner, one of the people who gets up early in the morning and picks up the rubbish, or you're discovering the cure for cancer. Either way, your job is serving and helping others. Ultimately. Good motivations. Motivation's a funny thing. I have a friend, David Levering, who had another friend. I can't remember his friend's first name. It might have been David Mitchell. And they were working on a car one day, and the baby was in the house. And David Levering noticed the house was on fire. And David Mitchell was underneath the car, not quite his name, was under the car working. So David ran into the house but couldn't get in because of the heat and the fire. And David Mitchell, who underneath the car, got up, pushed David Levering out of the way, and ran through the flames because it was his baby. It was his child. He died in that fire, but he rescued his child. He threw the baby out the window and saved the baby. What motivates you? Love, whatever it is. Romans chapter 1 and 2. Romans chapter 12 is one of the only 2 chapters in the Bible that I've memorized. That's how much I love this chapter. Romans chapter 1 and 2, and we're going to look at it for a couple of weeks. We read it and we gloss over that first phrase. I urge you, therefore, brothers and sisters. I mean, it uses brother in the scripture, but it really wasn't gender. He was talking to everybody in Rome, brothers and sisters. I urge you, therefore, brothers and sisters, by God's mercies. Motivation. My biblical teachers over the years always taught me, when you see a therefore, ask what it's there for. Ask what it's there for. And it refers to everything he has said in chapters 1 through 10. God's mercies. 1 through 10. I urge you, by God's mercies, because of what God has done, I urge you. I don't know why you're here. One of the coolest sermons I ever heard about was a preacher who stood up. I tried it once, but then I had to get back up, talk more. Who stood up and said, "What are you doing here?" And then sat down. And there was silence for 15 minutes. What are you doing here? What brought you to church? It may be because of pain. It may be brokenness. It may be loneliness. It may be emptiness. It may be something that was missing in your life that originally drove you to church. God's mercies. You came because you knew maybe not a lot about God, but God was merciful. And you could go there with that pain. You may have grown up in the church and always known the faith. But at some point, you have a choice. Why did you come? Because somehow, through your parents, through the church, through the family of God, you understood something of God's mercy, God's goodness. You've experienced it from the very beginning. How could you not go? It was in your very bones, that mercy of God. Some people may come to church because they think they're good. Why do you go to church? Because I'm a good person. Because I'm really, really good. Bad motivation. I hear it sometimes. I heard it this past week in the far-right groups who claim to be Christian in America. We're Christian. You're not. We're good. You're not. I'm white. You're not. No room for God's mercies. Showing up with that is not showing up with a heart that says, I need you, God. I need mercy. I need what you have to offer. Jesus put it this way: blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. First in the list. Why? Because knowing you need God, knowing you need something, is the start. I urge you, therefore, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God. What are those mercies? Romans chapter 1 through 10, 1 through 11, laid it out. Daniel, you've sinned. I'm there too. I've fallen, I've broken. In fact, when we have our confession, I never have to go back very many days to find things that I regret. I'm a sinner. Romans chapter 1, 2, 3. I'm in company because all have sinned. Every one of us have sinned and needs God's mercy. I am always amazed when I hear people's stories. I don't think there is an adult person or even a teenager that I've ever spoken to when they really open their heart does not share some incredible pain that they've experienced in life. Does not share some kind of brokenness. I need you, God. I have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. God's mercy. We need it. Romans chapter 1, 2, and 3. Then halfway through 3. Hey, yes, you have sinned. But God, thank God, in God's righteousness, has sent Jesus Christ. What can take away my sin?
But the blood of Jesus.
Amen. By God's mercies, Jesus came. Chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5. Tell me that. And then chapter 5 points to 6, 7, and 8. But chapter 5, he says, but God has poured out his love into your hearts through the Holy Spirit. God has given us the gift of the Holy Spirit. Chapter 6, that sets us free. You come for the mercies, and you receive that mercy. And that brokenness of sin no longer has that power over your life. It does not have the last word. All the way to 6:23, death does not have the last word. The wages of sin is death. But in God, it's life. In Romans chapter 8, that freedom of the Spirit, I have overcome. Neither death nor life, nothing in all of creation can keep me from that love and that victory. Chapter 9, 10, and 11. We are the people of God. We are the chosen ones. Some people say, oh man, don't come to church because of people, because there's other people there. Don't come for... Come because there's people. Because you're the people of God. And together, we show the mercy of God. I urge you, therefore, by that mercy. You know, we read Romans, and the first thing that Pastor Jay teaches his students in Greek, in understanding the Greek, is context is everything. How do you know what a word means? Look at the context. How do you know and understand something? Look at the context. What was the context of Romans for God's mercy? I mean, he was writing to the church at Rome, little house churches. A friend of mine wrote a book called Reading Romans in Pompeii. And it was an archaeological study. He's a New Testament scholar. Archaeological study where he looked at the ruins of Pompeii that had been preserved, and you can understand how people lived and how the houses were set up. You could understand the New Testament house church. And he translated that to the Roman architecture, just up the road. And you could understand the size of a house. A house church would normally fit about 30 people. Whose house was big enough? Well, the person who had the biggest house, was big enough. And they tended to be not the upper class, the wealthy. They had huge houses, but they weren't the Christians. Maybe it was a stonemason. Maybe it was some kind of craft worker. A house that might fit 30 people in a squeeze. Might fit us in a squeeze. Who would those people be? Well, the householder, the craftsman, and maybe his family, and the slaves that he had working with him. Slaves. A couple of slave workers, and maybe a domestic servant, domestic slave, and a couple of maybe families from around, but not too many, and a few strays who were allowed to come, a few slaves maybe, a few homeless people would come. I mean, this is a simple lot of people. And they get there. And in that group, so you've got maybe 6 of them, 7 of them are slaves, and 3 or 4 would be homeless people, 5 or 6 maybe professionals, and then the rest of the family members. But you could hear the words, by God's mercy. What do the slaves hear? I've been set free. I am somebody. God owns me, not my master. And what do those homeless people hear? I belong. This is home. God's mercy has invited me in. And if there's room for those people, there's room for you and me. With whatever we have, whatever our motivations are, hear this. Paul says, I urge you. I beg you. I strongly desire. By God's mercies, you respond to the call I'm giving you. Let that be your motivation. God's mercy. Why do you do what you do? Ultimately, I go to university. I go to school because of God's mercy. Mom and Dad may say so. The country may say it's the law. But I do it because it's God's mercy. My life is God's. I may be a slave to my parents and the country, but I am set free and I do it for God. I do what I do because of God's mercy.